Go back to the ghetto where you belong. You don't fool anybody with that college sweater." Officer Bradley Thompson's words sliced through the Chicago afternoon like a blade. The black woman in the northwestern hoodie stood frozen as his spit landed on her shoe with a sickening splat. The busy street corner erupted in gasps. Phones rose instantly, recording every second. Thompson's police badge gleamed as he leaned closer, his breath reeking of stale coffee. "You people always think you're above the law, don't you?" His thick fingers jabbed toward her face. "Probably stole that car, too." The woman slowly pulled out a tissue, wiping the saliva from her canvas sneakers. Her hands remained steady. Her eyes never left his face. "What? Gonna cry about it? File another useless complaint?" Have you ever witnessed someone destroy their entire life in 10 seconds? Have you ever seen karma arrive faster than a speeding bullet? 6 hours earlier, Jasmine Williams had awakened in her Lincoln Park townhouse to the soft buzz of her phone. The morning light filtered through sheer curtains, casting golden streaks across the framed commendations on her dresser. 20 years of service. Dozens of awards, all deliberately tucked away in her bedroom drawer today. She wanted to be invisible. Just another citizen enjoying her day off. Her daughter Maya's text glowed on the screen. "Good luck at Northwestern today, Mom. Proud of you." Jasmine smiled, running her fingers over her civilian clothes laid out on the chair. Faded jeans, a comfortable Northwestern hoodie she'd bought from the campus store, canvas sneakers instead of polished boots. Today, Captain Jasmine Williams didn't exist. Today, she was just Ms. Williams, guest speaker. The drive to Northwestern took her through Chicago's divided landscape. From her tree-lined street in Lincoln Park, past the gleaming high-rises, into neighborhoods where prosperity and poverty lived side by side. She noticed the increased police presence, 3 patrol cars in 4 blocks, officers standing on corners, hands on their belts, eyes scanning. The law school auditorium was packed with eager faces. Professor Carter introduced her simply. "Please welcome Ms. Williams, our special guest on community policing." No mention of her rank, no mention of her 2 decades fighting corruption from inside the system. She'd requested it that way. "Who here has had a negative encounter with police?" Jasmine asked the students. Nearly every hand rose. Black hands, brown hands, even white hands. The room's energy shifted and became heavier. "Today, we're going to talk about your rights," she said, clicking to her first slide, "because knowing them might save your life." For 90 minutes, she walked them through constitutional protections, de-escalation techniques, and the proper channels for filing complaints. Students scribbled notes furiously. Some recorded on their phones. One young woman wearing a hijab raised her hand. "What if the officer doesn't care about our rights?" Jasmine paused, choosing her words carefully. "Document everything. Record if you can. And never, ever lose your composure. Your dignity is your power." After the lecture, Jasmine stopped at Grounded Cafe on Clark Street. The familiar smell of Ethiopian coffee beans and fresh pastries wrapped around her like a warm embrace. Mrs. Carter, no relation to the professor, looked up from behind the counter, her weathered face breaking into a smile. "Jasmine, day off?" "Finally," Jasmine laughed, ordering her usual dark roast. "How's business?" Mrs. Carter's smile faded. "That Officer Thompson was here again yesterday. Gave 3 tickets to customers just for double parking while picking up orders. All black customers, you understand." Jasmine's jaw tightened. She knew Thompson by reputation. Badge number 5847. The precinct's worst-kept secret. 31 complaints filed against him over 5 years, all mysteriously dismissed. His father-in-law ran the police union, a detail that explained his untouchable status. "They call him the Intimidator," Mrs. Carter whispered, glancing at the door. "He seems to enjoy it, especially around here where Lincoln Park meets the real world." The area was a borderland. Million-dollar townhouses sat blocks away from struggling businesses. Young white professionals jogged past elderly black residents who'd lived here for generations, and in between, officers like Thompson played king. "Someone needs to stop him," Mrs. Carter said, wiping down the counter with aggressive strokes. Jasmine sipped her coffee slowly. "Someone will." At 11:45, she walked back to her Honda Accord, deliberately chosen for its invisibility. No vanity plates, no police parking stickers, nothing to indicate she was anything more than another black professional trying to navigate the city. The parking meter showed 15 minutes remaining. She'd been careful, as always, to overpay, but as she approached, she saw the patrol car. It was parked at an angle, deliberately blocking her in. Officer Bradley Thompson leaned against her car, writing in his ticket book. His bulk cast a shadow across her windshield. His uniform was crisp, almost militaristic in its precision, the kind of officer who confused fear with respect. Jasmine took a breath, feeling her phone in her pocket. She thought about the student's question. What if the officer doesn't care about our rights? She was about to find out. The coffee in her stomach turned cold as Thompson looked up, his pale blue eyes narrowing at her approach. His hand moved instinctively to his belt, fingers drumming against his equipment. The street suddenly felt smaller. The beautiful afternoon dimmed. And somewhere in the universe, karma checked its watch and began counting down. "This is your vehicle?" Thompson's voice carried the weight of assumed guilt, each word deliberately slow like he was talking to a child. Jasmine kept her hands visible, moving with the practiced caution every black person learns from childhood. The afternoon sun beat down on the asphalt, making heat waves shimmer between them. "Yes, officer? Is there a problem?" Meters expired. He didn't look up from his ticket book, pen scratching against paper with aggressive strokes. "Officer, there's still 15 minutes. She pointed at the digital display showing 0:15 in bright green numbers. "You calling me a liar?" His head snapped up, pale blue eyes flashing with something darker than annoyance. A vein pulsed at his temple. The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Jasmine recognized the trap immediately. Say yes, and she was aggressive. Say no, and she admitted to a violation that didn't exist. The street noise seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of her steady breathing. "I'm simply pointing out what the meter shows," she said evenly, keeping her voice neutral and factual. Thompson slammed his ticket book shut. The sound cracked like a whip, making several pedestrians jump. "You got a smart mouth, typical for your kind." The words, "your kind," landed exactly as intended. Jasmine felt her pulse quicken, but kept her face neutral. Her hands remained loose at her sides, non-threatening. Around them, the lunch crowd began to notice the confrontation. A young couple slowed their walk, pretending to window shop while watching. A delivery driver leaned against his truck, phone already recording. "May I document the meter?" Jasmine reached slowly for her phone, announcing her movement. "Put the phone down, now!" Thompson's hand moved to his weapon, fingers wrapping around the grip. She froze completely. In broad daylight on a busy Chicago street, his hand rested on his gun because she wanted to photograph a parking meter. The absurdity might have been funny if it wasn't potentially lethal. The metal of his badge caught the sun, temporarily blinding her. "I'm putting it away," she said, sliding the phone back into her pocket with glacial slowness. No sudden movements. Mrs. Carter emerged from the cafe, dish towel still in her weathered hands. The elderly woman's face showed a mixture of fear and determination. "Officer, she's been parked there legally. I saw her pay the meter myself. Mind your business, Grandma, or you're next." Thompson didn't even turn to look at her, dismissing her with a wave. Mrs. Carter's face flushed, but she held her ground, her small frame straightening with dignity. "I have owned this business for 30 years. This is my street, too. I know my rights." "Your street?" Thompson laughed, a harsh bark without any humor. We'll see about that after I'm done here. License and registration. Now. Jasmine moved deliberately to her pocket, narrating each action. I'm reaching for my wallet, officer. I didn't ask for a play-by-play. Just do it. And hurry up, I don't have all day. She handed over her civilian driver's license, the one that listed her as simply Jasmine Williams, with no rank or indication of her real job. Thompson studied it like he was decoding enemy intelligence, turning it over multiple times, holding it up to the light. Jasmine Williams, he read slowly, overemphasizing each syllable mockingly. Fancy name for a fancy girl. Lincoln Park address? He whistled low and long. How'd someone like you afford that? Must be a doctor or lawyer, right? Or maybe... He paused, his lips curling into a sneer. You got yourself a sugar daddy. White man taking care of you?
I work for the city,
Jasmine said simply, ignoring the insult.
Sanitation? Picking up trash?
His smile was all teeth, predatory. No, wait. Let me guess. Diversity hire at some nonprofit. They love filling their quotas with your type. Probably can't even spell your job title. A crowd was definitely forming now, a semicircle of concerned faces. She counted at least 12 phones recording their small red lights like electronic witnesses. Good. Let them see this. Let them see everything. Officer Thompson? She read his nameplate deliberately, making sure nearby phones could hear. Badge number 5847. What exactly is the violation you're citing me for? His face reddened like a thermometer rising. Expired meter. Failure to comply. And now you're getting an attitude. That's 3 violations right there. The meter shows 15 minutes, now 14 minutes remaining. Multiple witnesses can confirm this. You haven't given me any lawful orders to comply with. And asking questions isn't an attitude, it's my constitutional right. Oh, you're one of those. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell stale coffee and cigarettes on his breath. Probably got a law degree from YouTube University. Let me educate you about the real world. He moved even closer, using his 6'3" height advantage to loom over her 5'6" frame. The smell of his cologne mixed with sweat invaded her space, making her stomach turn. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds, officer? I smell marijuana. Strong smell. You've been smoking? The accusation was so predictable, so textbook, she almost sighed. I don't smoke, officer. Never have. I'm actually allergic. I said get out! Don't make me tell you again! His shout made a baby in a nearby stroller start crying. The mother, a young white woman with a Yale sweatshirt, looked terrified but kept recording, her hand shaking slightly. Jasmine noticed Officer Mitchell pulling up in another patrol car, probably responding to Thompson's earlier backup call. Mitchell was younger, maybe mid-20s, with nervous eyes that darted between Thompson and the growing crowd like a trapped animal. Jasmine exited her car with deliberate slowness, keeping her hands visible at all times. Thompson immediately crowded her against the vehicle, his chest inches from her face, his badge pressing into her shoulder. Hands on the car, spread your legs, wider. She complied, feeling the hot metal of her Honda burning her palms. Thompson's search was deliberately rough and invasive. He pulled her pockets inside out, scattering her belongings on the filthy ground. Tissues, keys, wallet, and chapstick landed in the gutter. A few dollar bills caught the wind, floating away like autumn leaves. Bend down and pick those up, he ordered, stepping on one of the bills with his boot. She bent slowly, gathering her belongings while he stood over her, his shadow falling across her like a dark cloud. Someone in the crowd whispered, "This is so fucked up." Another voice said, "Keep recording everything." "Pop the trunk," Thompson commanded when she finally stood. "I don't consent to a vehicle search, officer." "I don't need your consent. Probable cause trumps everything." "What probable cause exactly?" "Your attitude, your failure to comply, the overwhelming marijuana smell, pick one." "That you completely fabricated?" Mitchell shifted uncomfortably, his hand fidgeting with his radio. Brad, maybe we should just shut up, rookie. Watch and learn how this works. Thompson yanked her keys from her hand roughly, scratching her palm with his fingernails. The trunk contained her gym bag, an emergency roadside kit, and a box of materials from her Northwestern lecture. Thompson zeroed in on the papers like a bloodhound, pulling them out roughly. Pages flew everywhere. Her carefully prepared presentation on constitutional rights, statistics on police misconduct, case studies of wrongful arrests, testimonials from victims. Community policing and constitutional rights, he read mockingly, his voice dripping with disdain. Are you some kind of activist? One of those cop-hating Black Lives Matter troublemakers? Figures. I teach at the university, Jasmine said calmly, watching her work scatter. Sure you do. And I'm the police commissioner. He deliberately threw the papers into the wind. Oops, look at that mess. They scattered like white birds, some landing in puddles, others catching on car windshields, one sticking to a passing woman's shoe. Hours of work, destroyed in seconds. A young black man in a Northwestern law shirt stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. Officer, this is blatant harassment. I'm calling a... You want to join her? Obstruction of justice is a felony, son. I'll arrest you right now. The student held his ground admirably. Recording police is a First Amendment right. Riley v. California, 2014. ACLU v. Alvarez, 2012. Thompson's face went from red to purple, the vein at his temple throbbing visibly. Another YouTube lawyer. Everyone back up right now or you're all going downtown. That's an order. The crowd stepped back but kept recording. Jasmine saw Mrs. Carter on her phone, speaking quietly but urgently in Mandarin to someone. Thompson turned back to Jasmine, his eyes wild with anger. You're coming with me. Right now. On what charge exactly? Obstruction. Resisting. Disorderly conduct. Disturbing the peace. Take your pick. I've got all day. Mitchell was now staring at Jasmine's face with growing recognition, his eyes widening with each passing second. I haven't resisted anything. I've complied with every... Thompson's grip on her arm tightened, his fingers digging deep enough to leave marks. Stop resisting! I'm not resisting. Everyone here can see... Stop resisting! He yanked harder, pulling her off balance. Her shoulder hit the car's side mirror with a painful thud. Mitchell stepped forward, his young face pale with worry. Brad, she's clearly not resisting. Maybe we should call a supervisor. I said shut up! Thompson's face was inches from Mitchell's now. You've been on the job for 5 minutes. I've been doing this for 20 years. When I want advice from a millennial snowflake, I'll ask for it. Mitchell's expression shifted. He was staring at Jasmine's face with unmistakable recognition now. His eyes widened further. The color completely drained from his cheeks. His hand moved to his radio, then stopped. Brad, he whispered urgently, pulling Thompson's sleeve. Brad, I really think we need to stop. I recognize... What part of shut up don't you understand? Thompson shoved Mitchell back with one hand. One more word, and I'm writing you up for insubordination. Thompson pulled out his handcuffs, the metal catching the harsh sunlight. They clinked against each other like wind chimes of doom. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Officer Thompson? Jasmine said calmly, though her heart was racing. You're making a mistake. A serious mistake. The only mistake was you thinking you could mouth off to me. He grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back. Your kind always thinks you're special, always playing the victim. The crowd had grown to at least 30 people now. An elderly white man in a business suit was on the phone with what sounded like a news station. 2 teenage girls were live streaming on Instagram. A construction worker had climbed onto a concrete barrier for a better angle. This is police brutality, someone shouted. Shut up or you're next, Thompson shouted back, spittle flying from his mouth. He forced Jasmine's other arm back, the position straining her shoulders. She felt the cold metal of the first cuff click around her wrist. The sound seemed to echo in the sudden quiet that had fallen over the street. That's when Thompson noticed something in her back pocket. A leather fold, barely visible. He pulled it out roughly. "What's this? Another fake ID?" He started to open it. Mitchell lunged forward. "Brad, no, don't open!" But it was too late. The fold fell open in Thompson's hands. The gold badge caught the sunlight like a mirror, temporarily blinding him. The words were etched deep and clear. Captain, Chicago Police Department, Internal Affairs Division. Thompson's hands began to shake. The badge slipped from his fingers, clattering on the asphalt. His face went from purple to white in the span of 2 heartbeats. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Brad," Mitchell said quietly, "I tried to tell you. That's Captain Williams. She runs IAD." But Thompson wasn't listening. His rage, his humiliation, his fear all crystallized into one moment of pure, stupid impulse. Before anyone could react, before his brain could stop his body, he hawked and spat. The glob of saliva flew through the air in what seemed like slow motion. It landed with a wet splat on Jasmine's shoe, some of it splattering onto her jeans. The crowd gasped collectively. Someone screamed, "Oh my God, he just spit on her!" "You think your badge means something?" Thompson's voice cracked with hysteria. "You probably slept your way to that rank. Diversity hire, affirmative action quota." He was spiraling now, completely out of control. "That's what's wrong with this department. People like you pretending to be real cops. You don't deserve that badge. You don't deserve to be in my presence." Mitchell grabbed Thompson's arm. "Brad, stop! You're done! Stop talking!" Thompson shoved him away violently. Mitchell stumbled backward, nearly falling into traffic. A passing car honked, swerving to avoid him. "You set me up!" Thompson screamed at Jasmine, spit flying from his mouth again. "This was entrapment! You came here to trap me! Well, I don't care who you are! On this street, I'm the law!" He reached for his radio, his hands shaking so badly he could barely press the button. "This is Officer Thompson. I need all available units at Clark and Fullerton. Officer under attack. Send everyone." "Brad, what are you doing?" Mitchell looked horrified. "She's not attacking you. She's reaching for a weapon," Thompson shouted into the radio, though Jasmine hadn't moved at all, her hands still cuffed behind her back. The crowd erupted in anger. "She's in handcuffs! He's lying! We're recording everything!" Mrs. Carter pushed through the crowd, her small frame radiating fury. "You lying pig! She hasn't moved! We all see you!" Thompson spun toward her. "You're under arrest, too. Obstruction!" "Brad, no!" Mitchell physically blocked him. "You can't arrest witnesses." "They're not witnesses. They're accomplices." Thompson's eyes were wild now, darting everywhere. "This is a setup. They're all in on it." He turned back to Jasmine, pulling his pepper spray from his belt. "You're resisting arrest." "I'm standing still in handcuffs," Jasmine said calmly, though every muscle in her body was tense. "Stop resisting." He raised the pepper spray toward her face. That's when the crowd surged forward. The construction worker jumped down from his perch. The law student stepped between Thompson and Jasmine. Mrs. Carter grabbed Thompson's arm with surprising strength. "You spray her! We are all witnesses to assault!" Mrs. Carter shouted. "Captain or not, she's a human being!" Thompson was surrounded now, not by threats, but by phones. Every angle, every moment was being captured. His breathing was ragged, panicked. The pepper spray shook in his hand. "Everyone back up! That's an order!" But his voice had lost all authority. It was the whine of a cornered animal. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Multiple sirens. Thompson's false call had worked too well. In 60 seconds, this street would be flooded with police, and every one of them would see their internal affairs captain in handcuffs with spit on her shoe. Mitchell used the distraction to move behind Thompson. In one smooth motion, he grabbed the pepper spray and tossed it away. Brad, when the supervisors get here and see what you've done to a captain. She's not a real captain! Thompson was almost crying now, his voice breaking. She can't be! Look at her, she's just a... He raised his hand as if to strike Jasmine. The crowd screamed. Mitchell grabbed his arm, and in that moment, 3 patrol cars screeched to a halt, their doors flying open. Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped out of the first car. He took one look at the scene. Jasmine in handcuffs, spit on her shoe, Thompson's raised hand, the crowd of recording witnesses, and his face went white. "Thompson," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Step away from Captain Williams, right now." Thompson turned, his face a mask of desperate hope. "Lieutenant! Thank God! This woman is impersonating—" "That's Captain Williams, you idiot!" Rodriguez's voice was nice. "She's my boss. She's your boss, and you just assaulted her." The words hit Thompson like physical blows. His legs gave out. He fell to his knees on the asphalt, his uniform pants tearing. The sound that came from his throat was barely human. Around them, the phones kept recording. The witnesses kept watching. And on Jasmine's shoe, the spit continued to glisten in the afternoon sun. Evidence of the moment when Officer Bradley Thompson destroyed his own life in the most spectacular way possible. The street fell silent except for the sound of Thompson's ragged breathing on his knees. Jasmine stood perfectly still, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, uncuff me!" Rodriguez rushed forward, his hands fumbling with the keys. "Captain Williams, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "You couldn't have known." The cuffs clicked open. Jasmine rubbed her wrists, red marks already forming. "I was on my day off." She reached into her jacket's inner pocket with deliberate slowness, pulling out her full credentials. The leather case opened to reveal not just her badge but her department ID, her internal affairs designation, and her security clearance level. She held it high so every camera could capture it. "For the record," she announced clearly, "I am Captain Jasmine Williams, badge number 3847, Internal Affairs Division, Chicago Police Department. I have served this city for 20 years. Thompson made a choking sound from the ground. His entire body was shaking now, like a man in shock. Jasmine turned to the crowd. "How many of you recorded this incident?" At least 20 hands rose. The construction worker called out, "I got everything from when he grabbed you, Captain." The law student added, "I started recording when he threw your papers, ma'am. I have the spitting on video." Mrs. Carter stepped forward. "I have from the very beginning, from when he blocked your car illegally." "Good." Jasmine's voice was calm but commanding. "Please don't stop recording. This is now an official internal affairs investigation." She looked down at Thompson, who was still on his knees, his face the color of old paper. "Officer Thompson, stand up." He struggled to his feet, his legs barely supporting him. His uniform was soaked with sweat. A dark stain spread across the front of his pants where he'd lost control of his bladder. "Badge and gun on the hood of my vehicle. Now!" Thompson's hands shook so violently he could barely unclip his badge. It clattered onto the hood. His service weapon followed, the metal scraping against the car's paint. "Mitchell," Jasmine commanded, "secure those items as evidence." "Yes, Captain." Mitchell moved quickly, pulling evidence bags from his patrol car. His face showed a mixture of relief and vindication. Jasmine pulled out her phone, hit the speed dial. The call connected immediately to dispatch, on speaker so everyone could hear. "This is Captain Williams, IAD. I need the chief on the line. Priority 1. "Connecting you now, Captain." 3 seconds later, Chief Harrison's voice boomed through the speaker. "Jasmine, what's happening?" "Chief, I'm at Clark and Fullerton. Officer Bradley Thompson, badge 5847, has just committed multiple felonies including assault on a police officer, false imprisonment, civil rights violations, and filing a false report." "Thompson?" The chief's voice hardened. "The one with 31 complaints?" 32 now, sir, and this one's on video from multiple angles." Is he in custody? About to be. Jasmine looked at Rodriguez. Lieutenant, arrest him. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. Bradley Thompson, you're under arrest for assault, official misconduct, false imprisonment, and violation of civil rights under color of law. As Rodriguez read the Miranda rights, Thompson found his voice. Captain Williams, please, I didn't know who you were. So assaulting a citizen would have been acceptable? Jasmine's voice was sharp. Spitting on a civilian would have been fine? I didn't mean, my father-in-law is union president. Your father-in-law is the reason you've gotten away with this for so long. Jasmine turned to the crowd. How many of you have had encounters with Officer Thompson before? 7 hands rose immediately. An elderly black man called out, He gave me a jaywalking ticket for crossing with the light. A young Latina woman added, He searched my car for 40 minutes because he said I looked suspicious in my own neighborhood. Jasmine documented each person's name and contact information. Then she looked at her shoe where Thompson's spit was starting to dry in the sun. Rodriguez, photograph this. She pointed to her shoe. Evidence of assault. Rodriguez pulled out his phone, taking multiple shots from different angles. The crowd was still recording everything. Jasmine then addressed Thompson directly. You asked if I thought my badge meant something. It does. It means I took an oath to protect and serve all citizens of Chicago, not just the ones who look like me. She stepped closer to him. It means I've spent 20 years fighting cops like you from the inside. Cops who think the badge is a license to humiliate and terrorize. Thompson was crying now, actual tears streaming down his face. I have a family. Kids. Please. You should have thought about them before you spat on me. Jasmine's voice was cold. Before you terrorized this neighborhood. Before you violated every oath you took. She turned to Mitchell. Officer Mitchell, you tried to stop him. That took courage. I recognized you from the department newsletter, Captain. Your photo was in last month's issue about the community policing initiative. And you tried to warn him? 3 times, ma'am. He wouldn't listen. Jasmine nodded. That's going in my report. She looked back at Thompson. You had multiple chances to stop. Your partner tried to warn you, but your hatred was stronger than your sense. The crowd began to applaud. Someone shouted, Finally! Justice! Thompson's legs gave out again. This time, Rodriguez had to hold him up. One more thing, Jasmine announced. Effective immediately. All 32 complaints against Officer Thompson will be reopened and investigated. The street erupted in cheers. The transport van arrived within minutes, its black bulk pulling up to the curb like a hearse. Thompson had to be practically carried to it, his legs refusing to work properly. The crowd parted to create a corridor of shame. Wait, Jasmine commanded. Before you take him, I want his statement here on record with all these witnesses. Rodriguez positioned Thompson against the van. The officer's face was streaked with tears and snot, his pristine uniform now wrinkled and stained. Officer Thompson, Jasmine began formally, do you deny spitting on me? I was upset. You tricked me. Yes or no? Did you spit on me? Thompson's shoulders sagged. Yes. Did you falsely report an officer under attack when I was standing cuffed and motionless? His voice was barely a whisper. Yes. Louder. These people deserve to hear you. Yes. The word came out as a sob. Did you search my vehicle without probable cause? I thought... Without legitimate probable cause? Yes. Mrs. Carter pushed forward. Ask him about all the others. All the people he's done this to. Jasmine held up a hand. Ma'am, anyone who's been victimized by Officer Thompson can file a complaint directly with me. Today. She pulled out business cards from her jacket, handing them to the crowd. My direct line is on here. No more complaints getting lost or dismissed without investigation. A young black woman took a card while shaking hands. He strip-searched me on the street last month. Said my dress was too short for this neighborhood. Come to my office tomorrow, Jasmine said gently. Bring any witnesses or evidence you have. Thompson suddenly lunged forward, desperation in his eyes. My father-in-law! He's the union president! Your father-in-law is already under investigation, Jasmine cut him off. Did you think we didn't know about the dismissed complaints? The cover-ups? IAD has been building a case for months. The revelation hit Thompson like a physical blow. You've been watching me? We've been watching a pattern of corruption. You just gave us the smoking gun. She gestured to the recording crowd. Or should I say 20 smoking guns? Rodriguez's radio crackled. Lieutenant, Channel 7 News is 2 minutes out. Channel 5 right behind them. The media. Thompson's voice cracked. No, please, my kids will see. Your kids will see who their father really is, Jasmine said coldly. Maybe they'll learn what not to become. Mitchell stepped forward. Captain Williams, I need to make a statement. Thompson's done this before, multiple times. I have dash cam footage he thought he deleted. Thompson spun toward him. You little rat, you betraying. Finish that threat, Rodriguez warned, and I'll add witness intimidation to your charges. Thompson fell silent, but his eyes burned with rage at Mitchell. Officer Mitchell, Jasmine said formally, report to IAD tomorrow morning with all evidence. Until then, you're assigned to desk duty for your protection. Protection? Mitchell looked confused. Thompson has friends on the force. Friends who won't appreciate your honesty. She turned to the crowd. That goes for all of you. If anyone threatens or harasses you about today, call me immediately. The news vans screeched to a halt. Reporters jumped out with cameras already rolling. The perfectly coiffed Channel 7 reporter, Diana Carter, rushed over with her microphone. Captain Williams, we're hearing reports of a police officer assaulting a superior. Jasmine held up her hand. I'll make one brief statement. The cameras focused on her. The crowd fell silent. Today, Officer Bradley Thompson violated his oath, his badge, and the public trust. He assaulted me, thinking I was just another black citizen he could humiliate without consequences. She paused, letting the words sink in. He was wrong. She looked directly into the cameras. To the people of Chicago, no officer is above the law. Not when they wear the uniform, and not when they hide behind union connections. If you've been victimized by police misconduct, speak up. Record everything. We are listening. Thompson was loaded into the van, his career and freedom disappearing with the closing doors. As it pulled away, someone in the crowd started clapping, then another. Soon the entire street was applauding. But Jasmine didn't smile. She looked at the wet spot still visible on her shoe and said quietly, "This is just the beginning." Rodriguez's radio crackled again. Captain Williams, the chief wants you at headquarters. Says to bring all witnesses willing to give statements. Tell him I'm bringing an army, Jasmine replied. She turned to the crowd. Who's coming with me to make sure this sticks? Every single hand shot up. 3 days later, the federal building's courthouse was surrounded by news vans from CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Officer Bradley Thompson's case had exploded from local scandal to national symbol of police corruption. The FBI had taken over, and their investigation uncovered a cesspool of misconduct. Agent Sarah Coleman, leading the federal probe, stood before a packed press conference with a stack of files that told the story of Thompson's reign of terror. In 5 years, she announced, Officer Thompson conducted over 300 suspicious stops. 92% were minorities. None resulted in legitimate arrests. The numbers kept coming. Thompson had cost the city $1.8 million in settled lawsuits that were sealed by his father-in-law's influence. 47 victims had come forward in just 72 hours since the video went viral. LeBron James had tweeted the video with one word, enough. It had been retweeted 4 million times. Celebrities, athletes, and politicians demanded justice. The president himself commented that no American should fear those sworn to protect them. Inside courtroom 302, Thompson sat at the defendant's table, unrecognizable from the swaggering bully of 3 days ago. His expensive lawyer, paid for by the police union, was sweating through his suit. The prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcus Johnson, was a black man who'd grown up in Chicago's South Side. He'd waited his entire career for a case like this. "Your Honor," Johnson began, "we have 8 separate videos of the assault. We have Officer Mitchell's dashcam footage showing 3 other incidents of Mr. Thompson planting evidence." The courtroom gasped. This was new information. Johnson continued, "We have financial records showing Thompson stole over $50,000 from the evidence locker over 2 years. Money seized from citizens who were never charged with crimes." Thompson's lawyer objected weakly, but Judge Patricia Kim, a Korean-American woman with a reputation for zero tolerance of corruption, overruled him immediately. "I'll hear from the victims," she declared. One by one, they testified. Maria Santos, the young woman who'd been strip-searched, broke down crying as she described the humiliation. James Washington, a 72-year-old veteran, showed pictures of bruises from when Thompson threw him against a wall for walking too slowly. Then came the most damaging testimony. Officer Mitchell took the stand, his hands steady despite the death threats he'd received. "I have recordings," he said quietly, pulling out a flash drive. Thompson bragged about teaching them their place, about how his father-in-law would always protect him. The audio played through the courtroom speakers. Thompson's voice, clear and arrogant. "These people need to learn. A little fear keeps them in line. Besides, who's going to believe them over a cop?" Thompson's father-in-law, Union President Carl Morrison, was in the gallery. His face was purple with rage, but also fear. The FBI had served him with a subpoena that morning. Captain Williams took the stand last. She sat straight-backed, her uniform immaculate, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Officer Thompson didn't just assault me," she testified. "He assaulted the badge itself. Every good cop who serves with honor. Every citizen who trusts us protects them." She looked directly at Thompson. "You asked me if I thought my badge meant something. Today you have your answer." The jury deliberated for exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes. When they returned, the foreman, an elderly white man who'd initially seemed sympathetic to Thompson, stood with the verdict. "Guilty on all counts." The courtroom erupted. Thompson collapsed in his chair, sobbing. His wife, sitting in the back row with their 2 teenage children, walked out without looking back. 2 weeks later, at sentencing, Judge Kim didn't hold back. "Mr. Thompson, you betrayed your oath, terrorized citizens, and corrupted the sacred trust of law enforcement." She looked at him over her glasses. "I sentence you to 8 years federal prison for civil rights violations, consecutive with 5 years state prison for assault and theft. Total, 13 years. Thompson wailed. His lawyer tried to argue for minimum security, but Judge Kim cut him off. "Maximum security. General population. Mr. Thompson needs to experience what it's like to be powerless among those who abuse their strength." The ripple effects were immediate. Thompson's father-in-law was arrested the next day on corruption charges. 12 other officers were suspended pending investigation. The entire internal affairs system was overhauled. Mayor Lightfoot announced sweeping reforms, mandatory body cameras that couldn't be turned off, civilian oversight with actual power, and quarterly bias training. The Thompson Protocols, they called them. Safeguards to prevent another predator from hiding behind a badge. Captain Williams was promoted to deputy chief, specifically tasked with reforming department culture. Her first act was creating a smartphone app where citizens could file complaints directly, bypassing the traditional channels that had protected Thompson for so long. 6 months later, police complaints in Chicago dropped by 60%. The Thompson case became required study at the police academy, a cautionary tale of how power corrupts when unchecked. In federal prison, Thompson was assigned to kitchen duty, keeping his head down, terrified of the inmates who recognized him as the cop from the viral video. He wrote letter after letter to Jasmine, begging forgiveness. She never responded. Mitchell received a commendation for courage and became a training officer, teaching new recruits that loyalty to justice trumps loyalty to corrupt cops. Mrs. Carter's coffee shop became a symbol of community resistance. She framed the news articles about Thompson's conviction on her wall, right next to a photo of Captain Williams. The Department of Justice launched a nationwide review of police complaint systems, finding similar patterns of protection for abusive officers in dozens of cities. The Williams Act was introduced in Congress, making it a federal crime to dismiss legitimate complaints without investigation. And somewhere in Chicago, on a street corner where injustice had once reigned, citizens walked freely, knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, the system actually works. 1 year later, that same Chicago street corner looked different. Not physically. The buildings were the same, the parking meters still digital, Mrs. Carter's coffee shop still brewing its Ethiopian dark roast. But the energy had transformed completely. Officer David Park, a young Korean-American cop, helped an elderly black woman with her groceries, loading them into her car with genuine care. She thanked him without fear in her eyes. That was the difference. Captain, now Deputy Chief. Jasmine Williams stood at the Northwestern Law School podium again, this time to a standing ovation before she even spoke. The auditorium was packed beyond capacity, with overflow crowds watching on screens in adjacent rooms. 1 year ago, she began, her voice carrying the weight of everything that had happened, I was just another black woman facing harassment. The badge in my pocket saved me. But what about those without badges? The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Bradley Thompson is serving one of 13. His father-in-law is doing 7 for corruption. 12 officers were fired. But that's not justice. That's just the beginning. She clicked a slide showing statistics. Since the Thompson incident, civilian complaints dropped 60%. Not because people stopped reporting, but because officers started behaving. Fear is a powerful teacher, unfortunately more powerful than honor for some. A student raised her hand. Deputy Chief, what would have happened if you weren't a captain? Jasmine paused, considering. I'd probably be another sealed settlement. Another dismissed complaint. Another black woman told she was overreacting to legitimate abuse. She let that sink in before continuing. That's why every one of you matters. Your cameras are weapons against injustice. Your voices are shields for the vulnerable. You don't need a badge to demand accountability. The presentation ended with the video from that day. Thompson spitting, the crowd recording, his complete breakdown when her badge appeared. The audience watched in horrified fascination. This man terrorized a community for 5 years, Jasmine said as the video ended. It took 30 seconds of accountability to destroy him. 30 seconds. That's how fragile tyranny really is when exposed to light. Later at Mrs. Carter's coffee shop, the elderly woman polished the framed photo of Jasmine on her wall of heroes. Next to it hung the news headline, Corrupt Cop Gets 13 Years. You know, Mrs. Carter told a customer, that day changed everything. Not just for us, but for the whole country. Sometimes justice needs a push. Sometimes it needs a shove. And sometimes, she smiled, it needs someone to spit on the wrong person. Officer Mitchell, now Sergeant Mitchell, stopped by for his regular coffee. The death threats had stopped after Thompson's conviction. He'd testified in 12 more cases, helping convict 8 other corrupt officers. Any regrets about speaking up? Mrs. Carter asked him. Only that I didn't do it sooner, Mitchell replied. Every day I stayed silent. More people suffered. That's on me. Meanwhile, in Marion Federal Penitentiary, Thompson sat in his cell reading the latest letter from his ex-wife. Divorce finalized. Kids changed their last names. House sold. Pension revoked. Everything he'd built on a foundation of fear and hatred had crumbled to dust. His cellmate, doing life for murder, laughed at the newspaper article about another corrupt cop arrested using the Williams Protocol, the new system requiring all complaints to be investigated by outside agencies. You really thought you were untouchable, didn't you? The cellmate asked. Thompson didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth was too painful. He had believed it. Right up until that badge appeared, he'd believed his white skin and blue uniform made him a god among mortals. Back at the Northwestern Auditorium, Jasmine concluded her speech with a challenge. Each of you will witness injustice. It's not a matter of if, but when. The question is, what will you do? Will you record? Will you speak up? Will you stand between the oppressor and the oppressed? She paused, scanning the young faces before her. Evil thrives in silence but dies in sunlight. Be that sunlight. The moderator asked for final thoughts. Bradley Thompson thought my badge was what gave me power that day, Jasmine said. He was wrong. The witnesses gave me power. The recordings gave me power. The community standing together gave me power. The badge just gave me the authority to arrest him. But justice, that came from ordinary people refusing to be silent. She looked directly into the main camera broadcasting to overflow rooms. So I leave you with this question. When you see someone abuse their power, whether they wear a badge, a suit, or a crown, will you be the one who records? Will you be the one who speaks? Will you be the one who stands? Because somewhere right now, another Thompson is terrorizing another community, and they're counting on your silence. Don't give it to them. Share this story. Subscribe to Black Tales Stories. Stay informed. Comment with your own experiences. Remember, you are not powerless. You are the power. The question isn't whether injustice will find you, it's what you'll do when it does.